I'd like to call the meeting to order. 6:35. Roll call, everybody's here. Attest to publication.
I saw it posted.
And I saw it on the website too. Thank you. Thank you, Joni.
Did you hear
Approval
me
of,
clearly?
pardon?
I just didn't hear you, so I was making sure you heard me.
Yep, thank you, Joni. Approval of the agenda. Oh, Tina, there's Tina.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Motion made by Lori, seconded by Joni to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Public comments. I believe John has a list.
Yeah.
We will give each individual 4 minutes to speak tonight.
Okay. First on the list here is Alaya Langler.
Okay.
Alaya, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Hi, welcome. You'll have 4 minutes, and when that 4 minutes is ended, I'll let you know. Okay, there's,
Okay.
okay. Welcome. You can go ahead.
Okay, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I know you're not here to be told a story, but I feel it needs to be shared. As most of you know, last March, our girls basketball team made it to state. The week leading up to the tournament, the team was on cloud 9 and didn't think anything of the coronavirus. After our pep rally Thursday morning, a few of us were interviewed, and the last question was to Nora Tucker asking if we were scared about COVID. And Nora simply said, "No, we just want to go play." We got on the bus thinking nothing of the question, but not even 10 minutes later, we were told each player had to pick only 4 people to go to the tournament and watch. All of us were devastated because we had heard of so many people coming to the games to support us, and now we had to tell them they couldn't go. We didn't let this affect us, continued on with our day, and still had hope the games would take place the next morning. As the games went on Thursday night, I remember thinking, if they're able to play, why can't we? When the games finished, our coach told us to go to bed and he would let us know what was going to happen. At 11 p.m., we heard the knock on our door, opened it, and were told our season was over. All of us huddled in the hallway, crying in each other's arms, knowing that our dream that was in our reach was taken away. None of us really said anything that night, as we were mostly in shock that our season had abruptly come to an end. The next morning, we were allowed to go into the Resch Center. Standing in the doorway, looking at the floor, the lowered baskets, and the empty stands, there wasn't a dry eye in sight. Fast forward to that night, as we got off the bus and all of the people that had supported us all the way through the season stood on the sidewalk cheering. This was one of the hardest parts of the trip for me. Looking at my family and friends with a smile on my face, but absolutely heartbroken inside. With the way state ended last year, we feel even more motivated to get back on the floor and continue our journey to hopefully playing at the Resch Center. As a team, we do understand how serious this virus is, but at the same time, we have to start living with it because it isn't going away anytime soon. We've continued to present at school board meetings to discuss being able to do extracurricular activities, which shows just how much we want to be participating and getting some normalcy back into our lives. I'd like to end on a question for you to think about. How would you feel if your child was a junior or senior missing out on the things that they love? Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Yes. Okay. Next is paper. Andy, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay,
Mandy, you'll have 4 minutes. Can start whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. First off, I'd like to address changing the mode of learning timeline from 1 week to 2. I'm not sure why this is now being addressed, as the 1 week thing seems to be working. But this seems to be another tactic of our outgoing superintendent's plan to not have kids return to school. It has been very clear from the beginning, based off of his comments, that he is not in favor of kids being in school. The 7-day case rate last week almost went down to half of what it was the week prior. If that were to happen again this week, we would be very close to returning to school on Monday. Why would we want to date that out to December 14th when it could be December 7th? The logistics of returning should already be in place, as we have returned to school from virtual learning once. Based off the numbers for the school buildings directly, there are currently only 2 cases at the high school or district office. Middle school has no cases and 4 in quarantine. Elementary has no cases with 1 in quarantine. And that justifies virtual learning? I get numbers in the county are high, but in reality, there have been just over 8,000 positive cases in La Crosse County. There are 118,000 people in the county. So from March until today, only 6.7% of the county has been infected in that time. Then let's talk about Monroe County, since we also include them in our metrics. They have 3 school districts in that whole county, all larger than Bangor. 2 of them have had elementary kids in person the entire school year. Counties are not requiring virtual, it's just a recommendation. Let's stop comparing to the bigs of La Crosse, Holman, Onalaska, Wassalem, Sparta, Black River Falls, and GET that are not in session. Let's compare to those who are: Toma, Cashton, Melrose, Mindoro, Hillsborough, Royal, DeSoto, and Aquinas. And keep in mind, of those that I listed that are in session, 4 of the 7 are still bigger than Bangor. We are failing our kids. This is a time when Bangor can be a leader in academics by having kids learning in person, and we are failing them and society. There are little to no studies out there that say kids in school is the problem with spreading the virus. That leads me to activities. Fix the problem I just addressed, and activities could be happening. As most know, I'm a huge sports person, especially for Bangor athletics. I want these kids to have a season and/or activity to participate in. It's important for so many reasons. Nate Beyer wrote an article in the Monroe County Herald and thought, quote, the townspeople could clamor to get something going for winter, end quote, and, quote, thought the community wouldn't sit for sitting on the bench while everyone else played, end quote. Well, Nate, the townspeople have clamored, but the administration has their own plan that the board just goes along with. I've emailed all of you a couple times about these things and have never received a response. Look around. It doesn't affect all of you. The 4 administrators don't have 1 child that attends Bangor schools. 1 board member has elementary kids, 1 has middle and high school kids, and 2 others have high schoolers. That means there are also 3 board members sitting there with no child or grandchild attending the district. I guarantee if this was the situation 5 years ago, when more of you had kids in school and activities, you'd be marching to a different beat and not be allowing this to happen. In closing, Bangor should not currently be in a virtual learning environment. And if we were in person, as we should be, this discussion tonight about activities would not be happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy. John?
yes. All right. Next on the list here is, I got John Jones, but I don't know. On my list here, I got a Trisha Jones and an Aaron Jones. So we'll go with Trisha Jones to start with. So this could be Merlin or John. I don't know, I guess.
This is Merlin.
Okay, Merlin, okay.
Merlin? Merlin, can you hear us? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can, Julie. Can you hear me or not?
I can.
Yep. Yep. Okay, Merlin, you can start whenever you're ready. You'll have 4 minutes to speak.
Okay. First of all, I'd just like to, say thank you for the time to readdress this issue again. As a coach, as a parent of a child who, wants to be in the school and wants to interact in sports out there and continue to strive forward in his education as well as in his extracurricular activities. I think it's important that we look at everything out there. I've done my research as far as looking at some of the studies out there from the UW School of Medicine out there that's talked about the fall sports in Wisconsin taking place and how 30,000 athletes and more than 16,000 practices and more than 4,000 games took place this fall. In the COVID cases were relatively low as far as that goes. During that time, it also speaks about the fact that studies have shown that from July until now, nearly 70% of the 3,243 athletes surveyed reported moderate to severe depression, up 33% from past studies. And at the same point in time, it talks about the physical activities is 50% lower than they were in kids before the pandemic. I think that's something extremely critical that we need to look at with our kids today as far as their health, their well-beings, their mental stability and things out there. Those things lead to obviously other concerns out there when it comes to that mental well-being and the mental health of our kids. Where do they go from here? Once these kids start to crumble and things like that out there, there's studies out there that are showing due to the coronavirus, that during these kids' youth, adolescents ages 10 to 17 and young adults make up 22% of the United States population, and that their behavioral patterns at that point in time really lead to where they go further in life, and that as they grow to be young adults, during healthy times, some important health and social problems that may start to peak during these years turn into mental disorders, substance use, smoking, homelessness, if these kids end up running away from home, which does happen, academic problems and dropping out of school, even homicide, suicide, and even motor vehicle collisions and crashes out there. Just kids losing their frame of focus is what they're doing and what their search has been. Their happiness is gone and they're in a depression state of mind. And I think that's a concern right now when you talk to kids out there. And I guess at the same point, I might be concerned as far as what has our school done to do studies on this as far as the importance of what our sports and our extracurricular activities and what it means to these kids out there. Obviously important influences out there is, number one is their social environments, their families, their peer groups, their schools, their neighbors, and even the support groups, which are out there. And I guess as a coach, I am part of that. And so are we as school members, as teachers and other people out there. When I look at the numbers and some of the statistics out there of other schools and how they're looking at reconvening, I mean, our numbers are really no higher than anybody else's in our conference as far as the positive cases. Other schools are obviously moving forward and doing things to just looking at the positive cases out there and not looking at as much as all the quarantines. I agree with some of the other people that our quarantine cases are lower than they have been. Young people out there, when I look at the county numbers out there, the children under the age of 17 and under only make up 7% of the COVID cases in La Crosse County, which is relatively low when you consider everything. And, one of the biggest things I look at, why do we do extracurriculars all the way through since I was a kid? And one of the biggest things that we preach is extracurricular. The phrase I've always remember hearing is extracurricular activities are an extension of the classroom. So when we take extracurricular activities away from the kids, we're not just taking away basketball, volleyball, football, the sporting activities or drama, things like that, the forensics and stuff. This is an extracurricular activity, which is an extension of the classroom. We are teaching these kids valuable lessons at the same point in time, just as the people in the classroom. The lessons they learn are lessons they'll carry with them forever. It's not always about the wins and the losses. And if it was just about wins and losses, why would schools like Wanawalk Center and Brookwood, why would they be out there participating today? Honestly, if we know them schools very well, they don't strive. They do not do very well when it comes to the sporting end of things. And they're probably not expected to do so well, today or tomorrow. But at the same point in time, it's the atmosphere, it's the environment, it's the experience that these kids live, that they have, and that they're able to cherish from the things that we do. taking the kids and when we go to state, when we go to sectional games, and we let them enjoy the experience, we have send-offs to higher level games out there in sports, to running out of the football on the football field, taking the 3 seconds to run through the blow up helmet. These are all important things as an atmosphere that we create for our kids. And I'm concerned about the fact that if we take all this stuff away from them, the future experience that they're going to lose and not be able to cherish and carry with them forever. And I guess moving forward, I guess I'm concerned with where these kids might be going if Bangor does not look at moving forward in a positive direction with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Merlin.
Okay. Next would be, looks like John Jones. I believe it is this one here. Hello? There we go.
Hey, can you hear me?
Hi,
Yeah.
John. Hi, John.
Hi.
Welcome. You have 4 minutes and you can start whenever you're ready.
Okay. Basically, I just want to address the fact that I was trying to figure out a way for the administration, the board, to understand how much support there is for this. So the best conclusion I came up with was to take around these papers that I emailed out to all board members last evening. And in doing so, I compiled 38 students as a representation. The parents of the students signed them. It entailed anything from band, choir, National Honor Society, to sports programs, to FFA. All parents were in favor of getting these kids back involved in some sort of activities. I had explained my thoughts of how we could do band and choir concerts. I will be very honest. I had 2 people that did not want to sign this. One didn't really have a real good reason, just didn't think if kids aren't in school, they didn't agree with it. The other person asked as to what the safety guidelines would be if this were to happen. So it was a very legitimate concern. I said, I don't have the answers. I don't know what the school has set up for the guidelines. But otherwise, everybody else was in favor of it. Anywhere from parents said, you know what, if we have to sit at home and watch live video, just like we're doing this meeting, as long as our kids can get out and start doing activities, they were in favor of it, whether we have to sign liability waivers, if that's the concern. But everybody wants their kids to get out and start doing school activities again. And I guess that's just the part that I wanted you guys to know, is how much community support is in favor of this. So I want to thank you for your time, and whatever decision you do come up with, I completely understand. So.
Thank you, John.
Okay. Denise Meyer is next. Hello, Denise. Denise, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
Say okay.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you, Denise.
Sorry, we're having some internet issues at our house, so we're in the truck on the top of the hill right now. So I've never used Zoom on my cell phone before, so
It works. So Denise, you'll have
Yeah.
4 minutes. You'll have 4 minutes to speak, so you can start whenever you're ready.
okay. So thanks for listening to everybody. And I reiterate all the comments that I've heard to this point. They're all very good. Another thing that, a couple things I want to speak to. First off, going to deciding whether we're going to be in person or virtual, like taking it 2 weeks long. I really hope we stay with the 1 week. If the numbers drop on any given week, my kids need to be in school, one, for internet issues at our house, and two, just because they really need that in-person schooling. And I think a lot of kids, some kids maybe don't prefer that, but I think the majority of kids do better in an in-person setting. So the more in-person we can have, I'm a total proponent for that. Some of the other comments I just wanted to make, like now that we don't have sports and we're not as busy as a family, we've been watching more sports on TV. There's a lot of high schools that have been playing. They've been playing successfully. We've watched some of that. We've been able to watch the Badgers play basketball and hockey without masks. And, my kids are like, well, why can they play? Why are they allowed to play? And you know what we're teaching our kids? The only thing that talks in this world is money. And what we're, the only thing, like, everybody wants to control this virus, right? We're all trying to do what we can to control the virus, but it's a virus and it's not controllable. And that's the reality. We can either figure out how to live with this virus, or we can think we're controlling it by forcing our kids, which are really the only ones that we're shutting down, forcing them to stay home. They're not staying home, right? So they're in activities that aren't as safe as if they were supervised by coaches and the school district. They're going to Zoom at each other's houses for classes without masks, without social distancing. And what have we heard from La Crosse County Health Department? Don't go over to other houses, only stay with your immediate family, because that's where the majority of the spread is occurring now, right? When people are gathering without the safety measures that the schools and the extracurricular activities have the means to do and have in place. For the older kids, they're going to other people's houses, they're going to jobs, they're doing things that may not be as safe as organized activities and may be more contributing to the spread than if they were in these safe activities that we are doing all the right protocols that the CDC recommends. So, it's really a disservice to our children. The people paying the price for this pandemic are the people who are least likely to have adverse effects or even get it or get any bad effects or fill the hospitals. We're punishing our kids. Adults are still living their lives for the most part, right? Things that we want to do are pretty much open. There's sports on TV to watch. If you really want to go out, you can go out. If you want to get married, you can get married. You can have a funeral. These things aren't shut down by the government. And it really seems pretty, unfair to our kids that they're the ones that are being told, you have to stay home. You can't go to school. You can't be participating in activities that are healthy for them. We don't do this to them in a normal flu season. Flu is much more dangerous for children than COVID. That has been proven out. I really hope that you guys can take a look at this. I think the La Crosse County Health Department is really way too conservative. I've heard there's a new Harvard model coming out that hopefully is going to be, better for kids. The CDC recommends that we be in school and be participating in activities. There's all sorts of studies about the activities that have been going on with kids, and there's less spread of COVID than there is in just the general population because of all the safety measures being taken. I think this is something that we can do. And I think the easy answer is shut it down. The easy answer is, okay, we don't have to do all the cleaning. We don't have to wear all the masks. We don't have to make sure everybody's social distancing. We don't have to contact trace if we're not doing anything. Yeah, that's a lot easier, right? For the administration and for us adults. But what the toll it's taking on our kids, I think the post-mortem on this, when we're done with this pandemic, is going to be a lot higher than anybody realizes, because they're not reporting suicides and all of that in the news every day like they are COVID numbers. But believe me, it's happening. And it's going to be a sad day when it happens in Bangor as well. I didn't have Alex log in separately, so I don't know if it's okay if we jump to her. She did write something up to say in regards to this as well.
Okay.
Okay, I'll hand her the phone. Do you want me to hold the phone and you read
Sure.
your paper?
Okay. So, hi. I play for the Onalaska Hilltoppers, and I know this year has taken a mental and physical toll on even a majority of my friends and teammates. I would really appreciate it if you could give us the chance to play the sports that we love And as I'm sure you are aware of, studies have showed that the risk of COVID transmissions is lower in safely organized sports that follow CDC guidelines than in the general population. Right now, many high school, colleges, clubs, and professional sports are being played, and it seems unfair that Bangor students are not being allowed to play. So please, can you reconsider this and allow us to play? Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Next is Taylor Jacobson. Hello, Taylor. Are you there? Taylor, are you there? Looks like you're connected. And need to unmute if you are there. Well, I guess we will move on to the next person. Okay. Let's go to okay. Next is Megan Medema.
Miedema.
Sorry.
Hi, Megan.
Hi.
So Megan, you can start whenever you're ready. You'll have 4 minutes to speak.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
So I've kind of came to you guys with facts and statistics and like studies that prove that sports don't increase the transmission of COVID, but it kind of seems like that persuaded your decision. So I'm just going to speak about me personally and like from my heart and for the team. So I've always looked forward to my senior year and my accomplishments and what our team could do. I had goals going through high school. Some were academic, some were for sports. I have met my academic goals. I'm a 4.0 student. I've had the privilege to take college courses this semester. And that isn't just for me. I've asked all the varsity girls to tell me their GPA so I can find an average for all of us. And our average GPA as a varsity team is a 3.97, which means that we are an A average school. Like, we're A average girls. And you guys have always taught us that sports is an extension of the classroom, and we have performed academically, but it seems like sports have not been a consideration as an extension from the classroom this year, especially. I guess my sports goals were simple. I had one was to make the state, and two was to not break our conference championship streak record. Right now we're at 6, but as a team, we'd like to bring Bangor 7th. Right, but right now those goals don't really seem achievable. Yeah, we made a state last year. You could say that counted, but for me, it really didn't. We never got to finish what we started, and that has just brought more determination to our team just to get back there this year. Seeing other schools accomplish a full fall season without difficulty, or people starting their winter sports season successfully right now, and it just seems like we have not even tried to get back on the court or the mat or even the ice. Is just disheartening. I sent you all an email that provided the schools in our area and whether they were online, in person, or hybrid. There was 26 schools having some type of practice or games, will being virtual or hybrid. Our conference alone, we are one of the 2 schools that are not playing sports right now, and the other one being Aceta, and I was told that they're organizing a plan to get back there soon. But we are actually the only school that does not have a set date to return back to sports. As a senior and watching everything become less achievable, I can firsthand tell you that this has affected my mental health. I have no hope that this school district will try to provide anything but a paper diploma at this point. I don't expect a graduation, a prom, the volleyball season that got delayed, and speaking to you for the 3rd time about letting us play sports feels a bit hopeless, considering that there is no second option for playing winter sports if this gets canceled or moved back. I believe all seniors deserve a chance to step back on the court, the mat, the ice, the field, the stage, the risers, and have one last performance with all their groups. I've always believed Bangor has been a pioneer in providing the best opportunities for their students and student athletes. But it seems that mindset of leading the way has kind of changed. There are ways that we can have the season safely and successfully, and that's shown by all the people that did it in the fall. You are equally at risk of going to work and bringing home COVID to your family just by going out and working and like going to social gatherings. Like in sports, we would be way more under control by following the safety protocols that are mentioned in the UW study, which have been proven to work. I guess I just kind of want to end saying that sports just they just need to be played, not just for the love of the game, but for the mental and physical health of athletes. And Taylor's here. Her Wi-Fi stopped working, so if you want to move on to her, you can. She just walked in the door. That's kind of why I stuttered there for a little bit. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm sorry, my microphone wouldn't let me talk or anything, and I just didn't know what to do, so I just sprinted over here. Okay.
Okay, Taylor, you can go ahead. You have 4 minutes to speak whenever you're ready. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I know that I'm a junior and I have another year left of school, but my determination to get back on the court is no less than another player. Mentally, my focus without sports has not been that at all. I struggle to want to do my homework. Sports is not just an after-school activity for me. It's a stress relief that I look forward to after a long day of homework and tests. Sports is also a way to see my friends and achieve the goals that we have set over the years to make our community proud. To have the title Bangor on our jerseys is an opportunity that we dream of when we were in elementary. As I am happy for my friends at other schools, it is still very depressing to hear about the opportunities that they have in their games and that their board is allowing them to do something they love. Since our upset at state last year, everybody has been asking what I think, and I just keep telling them that, we're just going to go back this year, but our board is not allowing us to do that, and that upsets me a lot. I'm not asking for you guys to allow us to go back to school completely. I'm just asking us that you let us play. You let our seniors have one last game, concert or play, and so that we can continue to make our community proud as a Bangor Cardinal. Thank you for giving me your time, and I'm sorry about the Wi-Fi issue.
Thank you.
Okay. Next is Zane Langer.
Hi, Zane.
Hey.
Hi. You'll have 4 minutes to speak, and you can start whenever you're ready.
Okay, sounds good. First off, I just want to thank all you board members for doing this. I know making decisions can't be easy in times like these, so I appreciate it. My request is for allowing students to participate in all extracurricular activities while continuing online school. I know 6 out of 8 conference teams are continuing to play, and I know our boys and girls are ranked top 10 preseason polls, along with 2 wrestlers chasing records. So this season can be crucial because I feel like all of our student athletes want to make our names in history and make our mark. I know for some kids, the season's also crucial for they have coaches talking to them, and they can potentially get an offer if they have the chance to play in front of those coaches. I also think the band and choir kids should get an opportunity to participate in a virtual concert while playing in their own gym, because it's better than nothing. All I ask is for a chance, and our school motto is small schools building big futures, and I think playing the season and participating in all these activities are crucial for mental health standpoint, and just bringing the community together, knowing there's going to be a tough year ahead. So that's all I got, but thank you guys.
Thank you, Zane.
Okay, Tim Langer's next.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes. You can speak. We are giving allotted times of 4 minutes. So when you're ready, you can start, Tim.
Sure will. So first off, I want to thank school board administration for their efforts during this turbulent time. Spend a lot of long hours attending meetings, researching the solutions to topics that may not have a cut and dry answer. So I appreciate your time in that. I also appreciate your time in allowing us to talk tonight. I believe the student athletes tonight did an excellent job of presenting their cases. And also, thanks again for the willingness to conduct this special meeting. I would like to just take a few minutes of your time tonight to discuss the agenda item regarding the extracurricular activities, continuing even if the learning mode is in virtual. Everyone would agree that the ideal scenario is to be back into school and to follow the school's vision of personalized learning. Although I understand the logical challenges of keeping, or the logistical challenges of keeping hundreds of students and staff members safe. Extracurricular activities, however, I think should provide a smaller, definitive group in a controlled, organized environment. I'm here this evening supporting the amazing young ladies, and you heard from 3 of those tonight that I've had the honor of coaching throughout their middle school careers as they embark on their junior and senior years in high school. I'm also here in support of my daughter and her goals in life, and ensure that she has every opportunity to fill those. These activities are once in a lifetime opportunities that are continuing at other schools around the area. My hope is that the board will follow the multitude of local teams, conference teams, and co-ops who are participating this winter. The conference decided together to move fall sports to spring, and I hope we stay consistent in that decision tonight by following the conference and their continuation of winter activities. I encourage the board to take this away. Don't take this away from these young ladies that have spent time and effort in competing at such a high level. Allow the students and family to make the decision if they are not or are comfortable in participation. Sports provides a release when your day is crappy. Sports provides a mechanism to compete and strive for goals. But most importantly, for these young ladies and young men and all those that are participating in these extracurricular activities, it provides them a strong support center in these challenging times. So I appreciate your time tonight. And just as I believe John Jones had mentioned earlier, I support any decision that you make. But thanks again for your time.
Thank you, Tim.
Thank you.
Okay. Tatiana Wolfels.
Hello.
Hi, Todd. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. You can start whenever you're ready. We're allotting 4 minutes for people to speak, so you can start whenever you're ready.
All right. So first of all, thank you guys so much for holding this special meeting. It means a lot to be able to come and speak to the board and feel heard. So I know this takes away extra time, and you guys already put a lot of time into being board members, so I really appreciate it. Just quickly, as far as moving the mode of learning decision from 1 week to 2 week, I would just ask that you really consider leaving it at 1 week. I just think that kids are already missing so much time that any opportunity that we get to be able to come back faster is a good thing for our students that have been virtual for so long. So I would just voice my opinion that I would like it to stay 1 week. As far as all sports and extracurricular activities, being able to participate, even if we're virtual, I would support that as well. I think that we have a way to do it safely and in a controlled environment. Whereas I think if kids are not busy with these extracurricular activities, they're more likely to be off doing things that are uncontrolled and unsafe. Even without COVID, that's the case. That's why extracurricular activities are so important for all students, is it keeps them busy, it gives them focus, it gives them a team and people positive influences to be around. And I think that's even more important now during this time. As you all know from my email and from the last time I spoke, particular decision you're making tonight that I have a particular interest in is co-op sports. The decision was made before that if Bangor was virtual, but the school that our team is co-opted with is not virtual, our athletes would not be allowed to participate in practice or games or matches. And I know I've kind of said all this already, but as you're considering it again tonight, I'll just reiterate a few things. One thing that I think is important to remember is that in a co-op sport, if we're talking about kids playing when virtual or not, they have double the chance of not being allowed to play because they're looking at 2 different school districts and whether they're in person or not. I also think that when we're talking about being part of a team and letting your team down or being a vital or important part of the team, our Bangor athletes who are in co-op sports might be taken away from that team if we're virtual and the team that they play with is not. They won't have a chance to make up those practices or those games that they miss if the team continues to play without them, which is likely to happen. There has been some other decisions that have been made that don't really make a lot of sense. We have college students, or we have high school students going on college campuses and taking college courses, even though our students are virtual. So my question to you would be, if we're trusting the college campuses to be safe and follow rules and keep our kids safe while they're there, we should have that same trust in our coaches that they're going to do the same. My son is in wrestling and they've been meeting virtually and I've been listening in, and just firsthand from listening, they're going to take it so seriously. They talk about it while they're meeting about when they finally do get to practice in person, how important this is. And they're really hammering the kids with the fact that if they get the chance to practice in person and compete, they're not going to mess it up by doing something unsafe or allowing COVID to spread and shut down the schools or shut down the practices. And I've been really impressed with how much they talk about it. And I think we should trust in that they're going to do that and they're going to be safe about it. Am I getting close to those 4 minutes, Julie?
Yep,
Sorry.
you're over.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, Greg Mishik, next. Hello, Greg, are you there?
And unmute. How about that? Now we're good.
Hi, Greg.
Hello.
You
I am unmuted.
you can start whenever you're ready. You'll have 4 minutes to speak. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Greg Mitchick. I have 4 kids in the Bangor schools. Most are involved in some type of extracurricular activity. And let me tell you, they have been devastated by having to sit out while watching other neighboring schools, most of which are larger than Bangor, allow their students to participate. Why is Bangor so much different than those other schools? Is Bangor more likely to get the virus than they are? The kids know the risks. The parents know the risks. The coaches know the risks that they are taking by participating in these events. They all want to play. And if they don't, they totally have that choice not to. But currently, the school is not giving them that option. If the school is not going to provide an option for these students, then guess what? They're going to look elsewhere for those activities. They will organize on their own and find opportunities for themselves to do the things that they want to do. Heck, I personally know for a fact that this is going on. There are kids going to gyms and lacrosse so that they can work out because there is no option to use school facilities. There are kids going to the Dells to play in tournaments on their own time and are playing against teams from Milwaukee, Chicago, because the school facilities are not allowed to be used for practices or games. Ask yourself, is that really better for our school district? Having our students interact with kids from larger cities like Chicago, Milwaukee, Madison to try to minimize the spread? My opinion would be no. I would like to see the school district change their policy on extracurricular activities to try to keep these individuals in a smaller social group, which I believe would then ultimately help minimize the spread. I personally work for a company that has had 6 outbreaks of COVID so far, and we have managed to keep the doors open and business as usual the entire time. We have followed all guidelines required and defined by the state. I believe it is more important about how you manage the situation when a case occurs than it is about trying to minimize or completely eliminate the exposure. The virus is all around us. We all know that. I think you are living in a glass house if you think preventing the kids from playing will stop or minimize the spread of COVID. I think that is very apparent by how much in-person schooling we have had so far this year. Let's keep the kids local and let them play if they choose to. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Greg.
Thanks.
All right, and last on my list here should Nate Tucker.
I said leave.
Hi, Nate. Can you hear me? You're on mute. There you go. Can you hear me?
Okay,
Nate?
can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Hi.
Hi, Nate. So you'll have 4 minutes to speak. So you can start whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, first I'd like to thank the school board for allowing this meeting to take place. It means a lot, so thank you very much to everyone and the school staff as well. I guess I first just want to say that I feel that extracurricular activities are just as influential for our students as the classroom environment itself, as they help build leadership, confidence, and they teach our students how to communicate and work together. You know, these are building blocks to success. And I have a small list that I wanted to talk about in hopes that you may take them into consideration when making your decision tonight. Just a Game Fieldhouse is in Wisconsin Dells. It's also known as JAG. They host a wide variety of youth, all the way up to adult sporting events, and they've been hosting them on a daily basis, even through the pandemic. They have basketball, volleyball, soccer. They draw from a large area, and they even pull in a lot of the Scenic Bluffs Conference. After talking with a lead worker, I was told that during the summer and fall leagues that they have going, they were notified only one time for a contact tracing incident. And this is a place that brings in numerous athletes from around Wisconsin and that sport can continue and be safely done. A study conducted by Wisconsin Sports Coalition, this is a body of sports directors working specifically with basketball, compiled COVID data from 8 Wisconsin AAU basketball clubs. They had roughly 1,400 players / coaches combined, and they played during the summer months this year. The players competed in full contact 5-on-5 basketball and traveled to 4 different states. The data results showed that less than 1% contracted the virus. And of them, they had very mild symptoms, resulting in no deaths and no hospitalizations. And one more I wanted to throw out is UW-Madison just recently took part in a study where they surveyed 13,000 student athletes throughout the country. They found that 40% reported moderate to severe depression symptoms and 37% reporting moderate to severe anxiety. And that's because they're not currently playing. This summer, our daughter Nora, she played in 6 basketball tournaments, 27 games across 3 states. Our son played travel baseball in 7 tournaments, 24 games across 2 states. None of the team's athletes or fans contracted the virus while at the activities. It shows it can be done. We know there's a risk, and we knew it going into this, but we put their mental and physical health first and allowed them to play. And we do have family members that are high risk, in the high risk age class, I should say. And we took on the responsibility to ensure that we didn't engage in close contact with them following these sporting events. Since March, we've all been told the pandemic is a fluid situation. You know, we've seen adjustments at the county levels. We've seen school districts continue to make adjustments as well, many of which have been made to engage students more, not less. And they've done this by recognizing that it can be done safely, and then it's in the best interest of the students. After speaking with the TOMA activities director, he feels that the best way to mitigate students is by he feels that the best way to mitigate what his students are doing is by keeping them directly involved with school activities, as it keeps them close and reduces the chances for them taking the wrong path. TOMA is virtual now, but still playing sports. Sparta is also virtual, but still planning to play sports. As of the 25th of November, our school had 1 case, and we've completely closed down because the district and county case levels are too high. I guess, to me, a fluid situation should be open for adjustments. And I'm hoping that the school and the school board will consider reassessing the decision-making process again and put more emphasis on what's actually taking place in the school versus the district and the county. Or if in-person school's the only option, or is not an option, I should say, then that they would consider allowing extracurricular activities to our students during virtual learning, as it's already been proven that it can be done safely if we have a solid plan to do so. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Nate.
Okay, that is all I have, Julie.
All right, thank you. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is winter sports activity start and guidelines. I wanted to give a little historical perspective just so I kind of went through some old meeting minutes to kind of just refresh our memories about the process and how we've gotten here. So, and this involves, you know, our virtual or our mode of learning as well. So at the end of July, as you know, the board decided to start school with mode of learning as virtual for 30 days, which was 23 instructional days. At our regular August meeting, we reevaluated and decided to continue that plan. At that time, the board also approved moving fall sports to spring, which was the WIAA alternative schedule plan. And we also had discussed if we were in the virtual learning mode, there would be no curricular activities just because they kind of walk side by side. On September 30th, our 4K and our 5K returned face-to-face, and on October 5th, the entire elementary returned face-to-face. The middle school came back hybrid, and the high school continued to be virtual. On October 19th, the elementary and the middle school joined the face-to-face instruction, and the high school started in hybrid. During that time frame, and I don't know exactly when it started, but we have open gym, the weight room was open. Then at our regular meeting on October 21st, we reviewed and we approved the Scenic Bluffs Conference Winter Sports Co-Curricular Guidelines with our specific Bangor addendums, and Mr. Lane did include that with the agenda. And then as the numbers went up and we experienced more cases within the county and within our townships on November 2nd, maybe a couple of days earlier for the middle school, we returned to virtual. And then with no co-curricular, no open gym, no weightlifting, or no weight room, excuse me. So that's just a little historical perspective of where we've been, and we continue to be virtual. I guess I would like to talk to some of our medical experts who joined us tonight. Tammy, Dr. Warsing, I would like to get some feedback from you regarding where we stand with the safety factor and within our county, what the Cooley COVID-19 collaborative recommendations are. I don't know the most recent. And also considering our municipalities. So Tammy, Dr. Warsing, our medical people who work on the front.
So Julie, I'll go first. There are guidelines. WIAA has had guidelines the whole entire time. I think we just need to take a look at our numbers in the county. I don't think that all of the positive cases in our community are being reported to the school, so our dashboard may not paint a clear picture of the spread in Bangor. The data map from the county shows a lot more spread than what our dashboard on the school website is showing. On November 18th, the county did recommend to not have athletics co-curriculars for the next 30 days.
The Cooley Collaborative did that?
Yes, on November 18th, they recommended no sports for 30 days, no co-curriculars.
And that has not changed. I know that was November 18th, but it's remaining the same.
That has not changed.
Okay.
I do think at some point, I mean, we need to, I guess I don't know at what point it would be safe to go back to sports. We have a plan in place for when it does resume. I guess that's all I had for a comment right now, unless there's any questions.
So I have a question. So what do you mean that reports aren't, or they're not reflected in school? Like,
so we have a dashboard on our website.
Right.
That tells the number of quarantines and the number of positive cases in the school district, whether it be a student or a staff. Those have drastically gone down since the school's been virtual as compared to the case data that the county's reporting.
Okay. Anyone
So
else?
Tammy,
Does
have you
anyone
had,
else have any oh, go ahead,
sorry,
Trace.
Tammy, have you had conversations with the county about that? Do they have an answer for that? I'm just wondering. I didn't realize that the numbers were that different.
So I anticipate that the reason why our number, like our quarantine numbers and our positive case numbers are down is kids just aren't in school. So I'm not getting that information.
Could it be too that the numbers are down in the school, that the people that in the county, in our municipality that are getting it are older, you know, someone like me or my husband or my parents that have nothing to do with the school?
Yes, yes.
So, I mean, it still could be that the numbers in the school are drastically down, even though municipality numbers are up, because it's people that don't have any direct contact with the school.
Yes. So I just want people to be clear that the dashboard is only when a case, you know, whether it be a student or staff that's in quarantine or they're positive, it's only when they're reporting it to me or to the school. So that information may not be accurate. Now, if we were to go face-to-face school tomorrow, you know, we might get a flood of phone calls saying, my kid's in quarantine, my kid tested positive. I don't know if the information is being reported accurately or being reported just because they're not in school.
Okay. Any questions for Tammy at this point?
Tammy, do you only get the positive cases directly from the student or the parents, or is La Crosse County contacting you when it is someone within our school district that is testing positive?
I only get the information if a parent reports it or a student reports that they're in quarantine.
So we truly don't know. I mean, we don't have true numbers.
No. So the case data that came out, you know, last week that is, you know, it's not just that's the report, not just the students or staff. That's you know, reported as a whole for the whole community. That may not, you know, people may not directly be related to the school that are being reported through the county.
So when we go back to school, when we're back in school, is that still how you're going to get the numbers? You don't get directed right from the health department?
No, I do reporting to the county. They have never called me to report, you know, that a family's has a positive case or that there's a family member in quarantine.
Because of HIPAA? Is it confidentiality reasons?
I don't know that. I'm assuming that maybe they're overwhelmed. So me reporting to them is, you know, helping them out with their contact tracing.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Tammy. All right, Dr. Worsing?
I don't have a lot to add, I guess. The county did come out and say that they didn't want any face-to-face learning. They didn't want any other activities or gatherings. And they did give that 30-day time period. I think the numbers were kind of skyrocketing in the county at that time when they came out with that. And then on top of it, the hospitals were becoming overwhelmed. And we had a holiday where people tend to travel. So all of that wrapped together, I think, is part of their decision-making for that. I do know that when I've had any meetings with people from the county or the Cooley Collaborative, they've been very interested in supporting the schools. So I wonder if they're aware that we're concerned that our data isn't complete and that we're using some of those numbers to make our decisions. I think they'd be willing to help. You're right. I think they're absolutely overwhelmed and they appreciate the help from the schools. But at the same time, I don't think they want us making unsafe decisions by opening up if there are many more cases within the school or that would directly have contact with staff or students. So I do think it'd be worth trying to reach out to them and see if you get any sort of response, Tammy. I know you have a lot on your plate too. I hate to hand out tasks to other people, but I think it would be worthwhile. I know that I've also heard of kids getting together on their own to do some of these sports. I've heard of kids doing that somewhat locally, but also going to neighboring towns where they're able to access gyms, and that does worry me. And they continue to do that. And then there's no regulation. The kids are just getting together to do that. So I'm assuming there's no masks. They're not necessarily cleaning the equipment. I worry about the fact that these kids haven't participated in activities for months, and what sort of injuries are they going to get, especially if they're not being supervised or if they're not doing the conditioning ahead of time. So I do worry about all of those things. That being said, the COVID numbers are very high. I don't know if some of the data that they reported was true. Tammy, like you said, you questioned what data is real or not based on what's actually in the school. I do know that the numbers are starting to come down. Now, of course, I'm worried that more people traveled for the holidays than I think nationally we hoped they would. I don't know if that's something that happened locally or not. I don't know many local people that traveled much during the holiday weekend. But those numbers then typically lag by a few weeks when we start to see the increases. So it's not that we'll necessarily see an increase this week. It might be next week. It might be the week after. So I do worry about that with the holiday. I do think that, some of the other things that were brought up by all of the comments are also true. So the things that they said about the transmission rates between kids have been shown to be less. Kids are less likely to actually get sick, and that's all age groups. Certainly as you get older, or if you have a significant or chronic co-condition like asthma, you might be at higher risk even if you're young. But I do think that some of the things that we worry about for the general community isn't quite as severe for the younger kids. So, or for the under 18 population. So I think that's all something to consider as we think about this. Officially, as a medical provider, as a physician, I should be telling everyone, stay away from each other, stay 6 feet apart. If you need to get closer, then make sure you're wearing a mask. Be careful, don't stay closer than you need to for any amount of time, longer than you need to. But I very much worry about the mental health. I see it within the patients and kids that I take care of in clinic. I've seen more people coming in for medications and treatment and counseling. I've seen more suicide attempts within the last couple of weeks. So all of that is very real. What the right answer is or what you guys should do, I can't tell you that. That's something that you really need to figure out within the community and what's best for the kids.
And what's best for the community and the kids all together, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and and within the community, certainly on Facebook, I see posts about people traveling and a lot of the political stuff. I think it's calmed down a little bit since the election, fortunately. But some people are not playing it safe, and I think that if we're going to open up sports, if kids are going to be coming back in, that needs to be one of the understandings or one of the first conversations. You need to make sure that your household is safe and that you're not doing things that are putting your kids at higher risk to have COVID, because within the kids, it's more likely to be asymptomatic. So, you shouldn't be planning Christmas vacations. You shouldn't be bopping around to each other's houses and not wearing masks. You should be careful. And that should be part of what is discussed if sports were to open, that this is how we keep sports going. Because the other issue is if you open it up and a few people get COVID within the team, well, guess what? It shuts down again. So, a lot of the student athletes that talked about the fact that, they really made it sound like we know the risks, we know what we're doing, we want to play, but then they need to take some of that responsibility and do what they can to stay safe within the community and keep the community safe, if that is something that's allowed them.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tracy. Okay, board members, administration, thoughts, comments, discussion.
Julie, could we please cover, just because we heard some different things about what area schools are doing. So one of the things that the board asked for us to do was gather information, because sometimes I think it's hard to keep track of everything and what all schools are doing whether it's their learning mode or if they're hosting athletics. So I just want to point out on page 6 of your packet is what the Scenic Bluffs is doing. And then this was put together by the Hillsborough superintendent. So he also, because they are right next to Vernon County, he asked for schools to also from Vernon County to be on the list. And so that's in front of you. And that is as of the end of last week. I checked today again, and there weren't updates to that document. So I'm assuming what is on there at this point is still relevant. And then I also sent out to you today, gathered information from the La Crosse County and area schools, which include Holman, Onalaska, Melrose, Sparta, Black River, GET, and West Salem. Again, the GET Black River Melrose was because of the fact that they're closer to us than some of the other districts. So I just wanted to find out if there are any questions on that, but also if Kevin and Rick, any feedback on either of those charts. So I guess just a conversation just to make sure that that information is out there and is discussed and is current.
Well, Dave, the information that you put out is correct. I did talk with Rick Schmidt at GET, and when they go back to implementing face-to-face athletics, and he was only talking about basketball, that they have put together what is a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 program. And they too, like Tracy was saying, dealing with conditioning and getting kids back into shape. And phase 1 was just a conditioning type of thing where they would only allow their kids for 4 or 5 days. And the WIA requires 7 days of practice before any events can happen. And they were going to supersede that as a district and talk about that phase 1 is that they wanted their kids to condition, to get back into running shape, into some kind of a physical type of activity. Phase 2 would be what I would call skelly, where they would be basically no non-contact, but they would be running through plays and doing drills and things like that with maybe like 5 people instead of 5 on 5. And then phase 3 would be a full contact, full go. So they did have a plan for putting that together. I'd also talked with Ryan Olson over at West Salem, and he was promoting, as Tatiana had said, putting together some virtual practices since they can do that. I know Jacob Peterson, our basketball coach, has done that. He has put together a Google Classroom, and he gets a hold of the kids and has them do things such as maybe dribbling drills or some kind of activity that he can monitor through that. And he said that he's had a pretty good turnout, and the kids have been doing that. So we have, as other districts have, we have been doing virtual workouts through our coaches. You know, I guess the thing that I would look at is that when and if we do go back, is that we do have that plan. And Tammy, you mentioned it also, that we do have a plan for when and if we do go back. So that part is ready to be implemented. And it's just a matter of, you know, you guys as a board deciding when it would be allowed to come back.
Thank you.
I guess I have a couple questions.
Joni? Go ahead.
I mean, I'm just trying to logistically figure this out, you know, like if, you know, the 7 days are required and we start one day and New Lisbon starts a different day. And I mean, how logistically are the season put together, if and when we can do this?
Right now, all the conference schools other than Necedah started girls basketball on the 16th of November. The boys would have started on November 23rd. And so they are in the process of playing games. We have had to cancel, I believe, tomorrow night we'd have to cancel one, and then we'd have to cancel one on Thursday and Friday of this week. Those games are not canceled, they're postponed. we have agreed as a conference that we will attempt to bring back those games sometimes. And if you remember what I had spoken at another board meeting, I said that I tried to front load a lot of the schedule so that we have some open dates later in the season. And so the WI requires 7 days of practice before they can compete in a game. And every school district had to go along with that. And so whenever we would go back, we would have to practice 7 days. You can only practice 6 days in a row and then take a day off. So actually it's 8 days from the time that you start practice before you could have your first game.
And we have all the gym space to accommodate smaller groups, girls not practicing at the same time as boys are. And so on.
Yeah, much like in the past, we have 2 gymnasiums. We would be able to, and the 2 coaches, the 2 girls and the boys basketball coach would have to sit down and figure out a time schedule that they would want to practice, and we would be bringing in just the varsity boys and then the varsity girls and then the JV boys and JV girls and also part of the boys C team. As of right now, we have Jacob said that he has 40 boys that are looking to participate, and Merlin had told me that he has 30 girls that are looking to participate.
So if they've given you rules and regulations on practice, what other rules and regulations have they put out since COVID that are different in past years? Like, are they having us go off any numbers, or at what time is it unsafe, or have they put out any regulations whatsoever?
You're talking the WIA, right, Tina?
Yep.
The WIA has only put out recommendations, not mandates. And the recommendations, really the newer of one that came out was something about sanitizing the ball. They didn't mention anything about masks. They recommend that we go along with the state, but now the state has mandated the masks. But really the only one that the WIA has come up with is that you sanitize the ball. They want it sanitized at the 9-minute mark of the first half at halftime, and then at the 9-minute mark of the second half. That's really the only thing the WIA has come out with.
On the CDC website, there's a list of things that are recommended, but again, they're recommendations. There's not really a number that says once you hit this threshold, you should not practice anymore as far as number of cases. But it talks about for practices, limiting the number of people in the gym at the time, making sure that the gym is well ventilated, wearing masks if at all possible. When you're doing things like conditioning or skills, that you're 6 feet apart, that you're not in a group. All of those things are pretty well outlined on the CDC. But again, it's recommendations for how to do it safely. It's not talking about the actual numbers or percentages or how many cases are too many cases.
I guess the one thing I'll comment on, and I guess see where it goes from here, is that a few of the players, a few of the parents had commented, and I know it's been going on for many months on them, going down to JAG, we've got one player in our school that has gone to many states playing basketball in tournaments and stuff that way. They get together, no masks are worn. The unhealthy stuff that is going on without being overlooked or an overreach by the school on mandating stuff is happening. These kids are involved in that. To bring them back into the school and basically having structured practices, structured activities is a way to keep an eye on the kids and keep them in a healthier environment. I guess that's my thoughts. It is going on. It has been going on all summer.
I guess I have a question. First of all, I appreciated the
the 9 or 10 people that spoke, great perspective. And obviously their kids and themselves are very passionate about this part of it. I don't think any of us really want to be deciding athletics. I think, we all want to be back in the gym. I don't think that's the real thing here. It's the safety piece of it. I guess my question relates a little bit to athletics in the sense that if we were to have the kids come back, and let's say we allowed them to participate in gym, open gym and practicing for the extracurricular activities, or for that matter, band, choir, whatever. What happens when we decide as a district that our numbers are okay and we decide that we're going to have in-person school? Do those kids now, after being at a variety of different venues, a variety of different schools with a variety of different people, now get to also come in and be in person with kids that haven't done any of that? So I guess what I'm saying is, would we create a cohort of just athletic kids who would stay virtual because they did participate in those extracurriculars around the county or whatever? Or are we going to mix those cohorts again and have the kids that were in extracurriculars be mingled with the kids that weren't in extracurriculars? Do we have a plan for that? Because my hope would be, from an educational standpoint, that we get our kids back in school, getting their education face-to-face, which I think is our ultimate goal. But I realize that the things regarding mental health and, them doing things, whether we like it or not, they are doing things. But what would that plan be, I guess? Is it a cohort? Is it something else? Have we thought that far as if we let this group practice, what happens if maybe maybe none of them are really affected yet? We don't have anybody who has COVID or has been exposed, but they've been at all these different locations. Is there a plan to cohort that group or not?
Good question.
Well, I guess, Lori.
And I only ask because this is done at a school. I know of a school that is doing it this way, and their students are able to participate in extracurricular activities, but they do, when the school goes back to face-to-face, they are required, those student athletes are required to participate virtually until that sport is over. So I'm throwing it out there just because at some point, if we're talking about cohorts, we talked about hybrids with, making sure we had the Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday thing. Do we need to consider cohorting for sports versus non-sports kids? I mean, that gets them into the extracurricular part. I personally would like to have them doing extracurriculars and being in school, but are we exposing other kids, or are we preventing our elementary school kids from coming back because of that situation? So I'm just throwing it out there.
Good question.
If you go to that kind of a cohort, which I totally think makes sense, but then how do we do that from a staff perspective? Now, are we asking our staff to teach the same? Are we asking them to teach virtually and in person at the same time, or how do we put that together?
Well, and then we're talking extracurricular altogether, where if you have FFA events, you have FCCLA events, you have forensics, you have all that. You're talking a large percentage of the kids then would be staying on virtual.
Right, pretty soon your whole high school is.
There is a large percentage of the kids involved in some sort of extracurriculars of some sort somewhere. Where do we draw the line on that? I guess.
I think that raises a very valid point. And what I'm thinking about there is, you're right, Shelley, where do we draw the line? The other thing is, now we're creating different classes, pardon the pun, different classes of students. If we were to start cohorting for a co-curricular, You could say that's an undue burden on those students now, but you would say, well, that's because they wanted to play sports. But now we're getting into this. Now we're going to play judge and jury as to who can and who can't. I'm concerned that if we go back to sports, co-curricular, okay, without being in person, that too is creating now different classes of students. What I mean by that is there are kids who the biggest highlight in their day is their classroom stuff. And no, it's not co-curricular, but why would we make exceptions to the rules we had put in place for athletics and for co-curricular and not open the school up? I mean, that's something we're going to have to wrestle with. I think we're heading down a path of all or nothing. There was talk from some of the parents, specifically, and I get it, that, for instance, a co-op athlete is somehow facing double jeopardy. I can see where that's coming from. But I also think that by making exceptions for co-curricular and telling the rest of the kids you still have to stay home just because you're not out for sports, you don't get to come in and see your friends, you don't get to thrive in the things that make your day special, that we're now creating two classes of kids. And I think that's a slippery slope. Again, I think if we're going to do something for anyone, we should do something for everyone. I'd also like to address the safety aspect. And again, I've heard the arguments and I appreciate it. And especially the young people that addressed us tonight, I get it. This isn't us against you. This isn't the board or the administration against the parents. Nobody's winning here. Nobody. I want my daughter in school too. I want to see all you guys succeed. But we talk about whether or not we can do it safe. And I want to go back to our last meeting when our head basketball coach said, and I quote, "We adults are all out there living our lives to the fullest," making the point that only the kids were the ones being punished. Well, I would argue that's probably part of the problem. He went on to state that we're going to restaurants, we're going to weddings, we're going to get-togethers with our friends. This is the coach who's going to run a safe practice. How is that going to work? Are we going to cohort our coaches? Are we going to isolate the coaches if they're going to be running safe practices in school? I know that's not realistic, but therein lies the problem. We can't be reckless, careless, non-believers outside of the school, and then somehow we all get this shield once we walk through those doors that everything is safe and everyone's secure. It can't be both ways. If we've got a head coach who's not willing to abide by the same rules we're going to ask the kids to, I think that's kind of crazy. The last point I'll make, or for now, for months we've said, don't compare us to the big schools. So we didn't. So now we're talking about COVID cases and COVID numbers in the Bangor School District. We got right down to the municipalities, okay? So now when those numbers aren't working out in our favor, now we want to start excluding people within those municipalities. Last week in the meeting, the idea was floated that if, using Julie's parents as the example, Julie, your parents don't come into school, therefore, if they get infected, it shouldn't affect the school closure or not. I think that's crazy. That's assuming that nobody comes into contact with anyone outside of school. So now we're going to take that data, refine it a little bit more till it suits the outcomes that we're looking for. However, when it comes to athletics, we heard for the last several months, don't compare us to everyone else. We're not lacrosse, we're not Sparta, we're not anybody. But now when it's sports, hey, look at everybody around us. They're doing it, why can't we? Well, are we comparing ourselves or aren't we? It can't be both ways. Again, it's not us against you. It's not the board and the administration against anyone, but we got to be consistent here. If we open up the school for athletics and co-curricular activities when the majority of our students are not back in class, we're doing a disservice to the majority of our students and to our majority of our families. Whether or not the kids are safe in practice, we are not controlling what they're doing outside of school. What do we say to our staff? that when we come back in person, that we don't know what these kids are doing, you know, but you got to deal with it because this is the decision we made. We've somehow now decided to forego all the precautions we've been taking. Now, I agree, we've got to be flexible and we have to adapt. We're learning more as we go. I think the evidence is showing us, to the doctor's point, that the transmission rates among young people is less than we originally thought it was. Maybe the discussion we need to be having is readdressing when we are or aren't in person. But I don't think we can start creating different classes of students. We've got to be all or nothing. That's all I have to say for now.
I guess to that point, Paul, I agree some with what you said. Yes, the bringing the kids back, education is our biggest priority in the district. Us as a board, it is education. I went along with the going virtual for the first 30 days to see how it looks, that we were in all the special meetings we had. It was, we're going to see what happens in Melrose, what happens in Cashton. The only difference between those two schools is they are not in La Crosse County. Other than that, they are the closest to us to the north and to the south. They are very close to us. They work in La Crosse. They have a lot of the same things we do. They have not shut down. When do we bring our kids back? Because going off of La Crosse, a huge part of our Harvard model is going off of La Crosse County and going off of Monroe County, as well as our municipality. In the schools, COVID does not run rampant. Melrose, Mindoro, and Cashton have proven that they are our size. They were doing a lot of the things that we are going to be doing. I guess, when do we bring our kids back in person, or at least hybrid model for education? Because the way we're teaching the youngs right now is not working, especially the pre-K or the 4K through 2. They are losing that social interaction, that learning from the other kids and how to, play together, much less learn. When do we bring our kids back as a district? Yeah, that is the number one thing. If the kids come back to a hybrid or live, yeah, the sports thing isn't a big deal because that's going to happen. So I guess my question is, when are we bringing the kids back? Because this is getting ridiculous. Dr. Warsing had said, we're not going to know on what Thanksgiving travel did for another 2 to 3 weeks. Well, in that time period, then it's going to be Christmas. So then pretty much we're going to be out till February before we really find out what's going on here. That's not acceptable to me. I'm sorry. It's a virus that we have to learn to live with. It's not the kids' responsibility to keep everyone around them healthy. It's their responsibility to keep themselves healthy. If someone has a pre-existing condition that puts them in a bad way, they need to take care of themselves.
I'm not disagreeing with that, Shelley, and that's my whole point. I think we need to do an all or nothing approach here. I'm just not comfortable with starting to make special classes of students, because once we allow co-curricular, then, and like you said, then does the same thing apply to the forensics team? Does the same thing apply? The evidence might show that 4K and kindergartners are much more safe than the high school kids. Do we make an exception for them? Well, where do we draw that line? Second grade to cut off is a third grade. I think we need to take a broader approach here. That's my concern. I don't want to start making all these different divisions and groups.
I can appreciate that. I understand that completely. And there was a parent, it was a good email on, yes, we bring in some of the special needs students and then into the district for learning. And yeah, she had a very valid point on that 4K through 2. They need to learn in person as well. It is almost a similar situation to a high needs where they don't learn by a tablet. There is no learning there. So yeah, I appreciate that, Paul, exactly on creating the different classes. I think we need to take a stronger look on when do we get our kids back in school and how can we do that?
Okay. So anybody else?
Yep.
Jack?
So I have the article from the paper last Friday that lists all the schools in the area. And I did just some rough numbers while we were looking. So going to the sports, it looks like 31 of the teams are playing. 31 of the teams that are listed from the Cooley, Mississippi Valley, Dairyland, Ridge Valley, other and Scenic Bluffs. 14 are not playing. And many of those are, I didn't do this, so you just asked that question, are either virtual or hybrid are also playing. So I definitely respect the kids should be in school. And I would love to have our kids back in school like now. But if we wait for that, if we follow the model we've been, then our kids will never get to play. So I think they're two separate things. I'm in favor of both. But if we say we're only going to do one, then our kids are probably never going to get to play. So unless we change our model and look at that, then, I mean, the model is set up to not have our kids come back the way our things are going. So, and if you looked at that, I don't know if any of you got to see that article. I'm assuming some of you did. There's a wide range. And if 31 schools around us are playing sports, then it can't be a death sentence, or not to take the virus lightly, but it can't be a COVID super spreader. 31 schools around us, those are schools in our area. So I'm in favor of definitely of sports playing, and I'm in favor of coming back to school. So I think that was some good data that someone else put together for us with lots of information about what schools are hybrid, which schools are in person, and how they're handling it collectively.
Okay. So what's our next step? Anybody else? I'm sorry. Tina, Joni.
Well,
Julie, I just want to address, I think that, that from a sports viewpoint, that I want our kids back playing sports and involved in activities. And so, but my concern is, that we said that Bangor is not lacrosse. They are not this school. They are not this school. So we adapted the model to reflect that. Yes, we still use lacrosse numbers because that's important, because we are in La Crosse County. We are also 5 minutes from, and this is where we're different from Melrose, Cashion. We're 5 minutes from Sparta, city of 10,000. We're 5 minutes from West Salem, a town of 5,000. We're 10 to 15 minutes to Onalaska, La Crosse. And so that is where we are different. So, but again, we look and use that information, but that is not our primary metric. People said over and over, we should look at our municipalities. We are, and we have tracked those. And the model shows that it has gotten consistently worse. Julie talked about the timelines. So back on November 4th, when, and remember our model is 2.24 to be in red. Well, November 4th, we're 5.6. November 11th, we were at 10.58, 5 times the level, the minimum level to be in red. On the 18th, we're at 8.83, 4 times the level of what was in red. So now this past week, it did go back down to 4.92. So, but it's still twice the level. Now, again, if we want to look at different models, then fine. But just to say, let's open the doors and based on what we're hearing from our medical experts, and again, La Crosse County, which our Cooley Collaborative is not only comprised of La Crosse County Health Department, it's comprised of Gunderson and Mayo. And they are saying for the next 30 days, it is not safe to do any type of extracurricular, co-curricular. They say that we should be in a virtual setting. So again, if the board wants to make the recommendation to go with something else, let's make sure we have a model that, whether if you don't want to use this model anymore, then what would be the alternative? So, and again, I do say that we are different from Melrose and Cashion because of what I just said in terms of our location. And while we're not the La Crosse, while we're not Sparta, we are situated in a different locality than those other schools that even in the Scenic Bluffs, even to the north in the Dairyland, they're different. So.
So then Aquinas running their athletics all year and stuff like that. I mean, they're right in the heart of downtown Cass Street, La Crosse. They have the almighty power looking over them that COVID don't hit there.
No, but I think the perception that these schools that ran fall sports, Shelley, there were stops and starts, stops and starts. Take a look at the sports that did make it. There were teams that played 4 games, 5, and I'm talking football,
right.
4 games, 5 games, 6 games. And so it was very much a stop and start type of thing. And that's outdoor sports. Now, I'm not talking about volleyball, but you're looking at sports that will be done inside. And on top of, you know, the COVID, it's also the flu season. So I think there are other factors to take into account.
I don't think the student athletes would mind starting and stopping. They just want to play. I mean, we can be fluid and change it where, you know, there's no spectators, just them and play. If that's even a possibility, that, you know, there's no one very few people in the gym. That to give these kids some sort of hope, and I don't care if it's basketball, wrestling, hockey, FCCLA, forensics, whatever, give these kids some hope of something that's in their very near future. Because right now there is no hope.
Okay. Anybody else? What should our next steps be?
I kind of come back to what Tammy was saying at the beginning about our numbers. And so my question would really be to Dr. Warsing, at what point is it too dangerous for us to be together? And that is what the debate, I think, is when it comes to sports or in school, and being open-minded at and fluid to what we're doing. And maybe we need different ideas, you know, or different solutions. But at what point is it too dangerous? Like, if we're being told that we're not getting accurate numbers and people have to report it to us, then I don't know when we will know it's safe. If we have to go, if we're not getting it reported to us, like, is that possible to get that information?
Again, I think you'd have to reach out to the county to see if we could get better information. But I don't know that there is a set level. I think the Harvard model tried to predict some of that. I think maybe it was too conservative because it started when we thought the mortality rate was higher, when we thought the transmission was higher. We didn't know about the difference in transmission between different age groups. And I, like you said, I hear that there's going to be a new Harvard model coming out pretty soon. I also hear that the CDC might be changing how long they think people need to quarantine, because maybe we don't need to quarantine as long. It doesn't need to be the full 14 days like we thought it was. Mm-hmm. So some of those things are going to be changing as we learn more about the disease and the virus. But if you're looking for a black and white answer that this is the level, you know, that 3 cases is too many, but 2 is okay, there's just not that data out there. You know, again, we know the things that work: masking, social distancing, cohorting. Those are the things that decrease the spread. There are a lot of businesses that stay open that are not having major breakouts. There, you know, people are going to work all the time, but they're following those rules. That's very hard to do in the younger kids. But again, the younger kids are not as at risk for those complications or as likely to transmit. And they're more at risk for some of the other problems that happen, like not furthering their education, not having that social interaction when you talk about the very little kids. So all of that needs to be taken into consideration. But no, there's not a black and white answer. There's not this level is okay and that level is not okay. Higher is worse, lower is better. That's about as clear as I could get.
Okay. So I guess go ahead.
Has anyone seen this new Harvard model? Has anyone seen what they're, we just can't keep delaying this and delaying this. And I'm, you know,
I've just heard about it. I have not seen it. I've just heard that it's in development.
I've not seen it. I've not heard of an actual timeline. I've also been hearing about the CDC decreasing the length of quarantine for a couple of weeks. I haven't seen anything definite, and I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know that you necessarily wait for those things, but I think what it does show us is that there's a trend to be maybe a little less restrictive than we originally thought. But how less restrictive? I don't know.
The subject on the table tonight is whether or not we can, or we will agree to resume co-curricular activities while still being virtual. Correct? That's what we're talking about tonight.
Correct.
We can't just open it up without giving the administration some kind of guidelines as to, because to Tina's point, then what's the new rule? So I don't think that's going to be debated tonight. Personally, I stand by what I said. I think it should be an all or nothing thing. But again, what's on the table tonight is whether or not we, the board, will agree to allow co-curricular activities while the school is in virtual. Just for clarification, is it the entire school? Is it the high school? What if the grade school kids are in person and we're at either in person or hybrid at the high school? What's our cutoff? I need a reminder. As it stands now, what's our rule for co-curricular?
Dave, Kevin.
So if we are in person or hybrid at the middle school, high school, that would allow extracurriculars and co-curriculars. If we're in virtual, again, your past action has been, if we're in virtual, we do not hold co-curriculars or extracurriculars.
So this, when the middle high school was hybrid, or excuse me, when the middle school was hybrid and the high school was virtual, we still could not hold athletic events if that were to happen this winter like that?
That's my understanding, because the high school would still be virtual. So that the hybrid would be the minimum criteria for the high school level.
That's my understanding. Is that correct, Dave, Rick, Kevin?
Yes.
And does anyone know what that level is? What number of cases do we have to get to that?
Well, if Jack, so we would have to get to, under our current model, we would have to get into orange, which is the 2.24. And so we would have to slide into orange, what gives us the capability of either go hybrid or in person.
And what was last numbers? Number 4 point something?
4.92.
And have we not
again, that's the municipality numbers.
And we've not been in orange in the municipality since we started that new model, correct?
Yes, we have. We have. We were in orange October 21st, October 14th, we were in yellow. And October 7th, we were in red.
I'm just worried if we say that we're never going to get there and these kids aren't going to get to play. That's what I'm worried about. I understand that doing one thing at a time, like let's figure out a model to use if we're going to vote to change the model. But I'm worried if we say we're going to wait, then these kids will never get to play.
And so have we had the discussion of if they're able to play sports, if we are in person in elementary school, that would give them, that would put them into sports at the same time as we'd be opening school up again. They would be able to cohort just as the elementary school kids would be at that time. Is that a possibility? Or does that go against certain logic or?
That's it's a good question, Tina, but it seems to me like then we're just kind of, we're playing with the rule. If it's okay for high school and middle school kids to compete because the elementary kids are in person seems like we just hollowed out any reasonable rules we put in place. So I think we should either reevaluate our model or stick with it. But I can't see how we could use elementary school kids being in person as a rationale to somehow override or supersede the rule we had put in place previously. I think we need to adjust the rule.
Because I think you can cohort in the same thought process of what we were thinking about in the elementary school. So if our elementary school class is 10 or 15 kids, that may be, you know, how many kids are on our varsity team? It would kind of be the same number, right? So they would be kind of cohorting in that same contact tracing, or is that incorrect? Am I not following that same logic?
For sports, they would be, but not for their classroom.
But they wouldn't be in class anyways, right?
But you're saying if they were virtual, okay.
Which brings me back to my point I made earlier. What does that say to the rest of the students, to the majority of the kids who aren't in sports or co-curricular? What does it say to them? That we're going to make an exception for this group of kids, but for you guys, you're still stuck at home.
Just like in life, you cannot, the words of fair and equal are not the same. And I mean, there are differences all the time, and to dig in your heels and on a very fluid situation, to dig in your heels and say, this is the rules we made 2 months ago, and this is what we're going to keep to, is pretty much blinders on as well. I mean, we're trying to do as much for as many kids as we can. Opening up all extracurriculars, not just sports, it is all extracurricular, I thought is what this special meeting was about. So it wouldn't just be sports kids.
It's not a matter of digging in my heels, Shelley, or I don't know if you're implying me. It's a matter of our first responsibility is getting the kids back in school. First priority. Then let's have this conversation about co-curricular. I think we'd be doing a disservice to those non-co-curricular students and their families if we start making rules that are specific to this and not addressing their needs. That's what I'm saying. Again,
I guess I'm trying.
I think we're debating the wrong point here.
Right. So, Shelley, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
I'm trying to help as many kids as possible in any way I can. And I mean, that mental health issue, as the days get shorter, it gets darker sooner, it's cold. Mental health is an issue already at this type of season and this time of year. I mean, mental health cases rise drastically through the winter. I mean,
it is for non-athletes too, Shelley. It is for non-athletes too.
I know that. That's why I'm trying to help as many kids as possible that we can with extracurricular activities. Who knows? Maybe this will get more kids to join for Rent 6 or FCCLA or FFA or something that way, because they want to join in the reindeer games as well.
Okay, thank you. So back to the topic, winter sports activities. And winter sports and activities. Right now, our guidelines are if we're virtual, there are no winter sports activities.
I've heard every argument, and of course, not everyone is 100% correct. I don't know. I think we have to find a way to try to get these kids into something, and we need to reevaluate our model. I do think, I mean, I'm not saying it's open the doors wide open, but kind of like Jack said, if we postpone this decision until we reevaluate our model, it's too late to do anything. I just don't know. I'm really struggling with this, I'll be honest. Very struggling.
I think we all are, Joni.
So to clarify, Dave, from your information earlier, though, all other schools within La Crosse County are following the recommendations from the health department. Is that correct?
The Cooley COVID-19. collaborative recommendations?
Yeah, so the only one that hasn't is West Salem, and they're, while they haven't adopted that, through December 18th, they have adopted that if they're in virtual, there will be no sports or activities. So lacrosse is not coming back until after the first semester, and they've shut down all their sports. So Onalaska and Holmen, though, have adopted the lacrosse county recommendations for no activities or sports till December 18th.
Lacrosse Aquinas is running sports. I believe they still are. They were last week. I'm not sure about Onalaska Luther. They are lacrosse county schools.
Yeah, Shelley, they have chosen, not to follow,
Tina asked lacrosse county schools, and those schools are running.
Right.
Kevin, do those virtual practices count in those 7 or 8 day thing that you were talking about? If they're doing virtual practices, do those count, or do they have to be in person?
They have to be face to face. Just a good way for the coaches to keep in contact with their athletes and hopefully keep them somewhat involved and get them in shape before they do come in.
And to someone's question about lacrosse county, that yes, Aquinas and Luther are doing practices and games as scheduled. And lacrosse county, the county collaborative, it's recommendations. Remember, at first it was you had to, and then it was changed to recommendations. So it's up to each board to decide.
Okay. Again, what's on the table?
I guess I'll see where it goes. I'd like to make a motion to come up with a plan of allowing sports while we are still in virtual learning.
I'll second it.
I just have a question on the motion. What does that mean? Come up with a plan?
Yeah,
Explain
a
Are you
plan.
gonna set a date? Are you gonna set a date? What does that mean? I think it needs to be more specific.
Yes,
Immediately.
I would like to, I guess, discuss and set a date that if we are in virtual or in person, whatever our mode of learning is at that time, what the date we come up with, that we still allow the sports to continue. Today is what, the 30th?
Yeah, I mean, do you want to set a special meeting to discuss this?
I guess, no, I would think we would discuss it more tonight.
Okay.
Passes.
I think there needs to be more specificity, Shelley. I'm not trying to grill you here, but I think if you're advocating that we go back to athletics or co-curricular, I think you say we do it starting immediately. We do it in the next, by the 18th when the other schools are. What I'm looking for more specificity.
Fine. I would look at doing next Monday so we get some plans in place. For and allow extracurricular activities as the heads of those activities want to pursue it.
So you're saying to start practice on December 9th?
Correct.
December 7th.
Or I'm in the wrong month. I'm sorry.
7th?
Yeah.
Okay.
7th.
You said the 9th, but you meant the 7th. Okay. Shelley? Joni, second?
No, Jack did.
Oh, Jack?
Jack seconded.
Okay.
I second it, but I'm just wondering if they should just go on. I mean, I don't know. So we're waiting until December, so we're saying they can start Monday, or we're going to decide again on Monday? Like, what are we going to, because that's just postponing it. So that's what I just want to clarify.
They're going to start.
Start with practice.
My motion was that they could start practice on the 7th.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay. Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Jack to start practice of sports and co-curricular activities on December 2nd, or December 7th. All in favor?
Can there still be discussion?
Yep.
So like anything else, I mean, if we start this, I mean, it's in our power at any time to say, hey, this isn't working, or hey, this is working. Is that how this is going to work?
Meaning if there's
You
positive.
know, if we do see a spike, or if it's, I mean, is this just I'm sorry, it cut out. I didn't hear that.
You cut out too, Joni.
I just want to know if we're going to start December 7th, we say we're opening the floodgates, letting them practice. Is it still in our hands to say this is not working? We're now seeing adverse effects of this. Then we can stop it, or what? How does this happen?
Good question.
Yes, I would say, you would have to still follow if we have cases within those groups, whether, say, I'll just throw out, boys basketball, if there are cases on there, if they are going to have to be quarantined, they would not be able to practice and play from there. If there's positive cases on the team or activity groups, they will have to follow procedure there.
How many? 1, 5? How many cases on the team is the cutoff?
Well, the county gives what's close contact guidelines. I mean, the medical advisors give close contact guidelines. That's what we follow. And I think it should go without saying, but maybe we should say it, that the coaches have to follow CDC or WIAA space safety recommendations. I'm not sure. They should follow safety recommendations. I'm not sure if it's WIAA. I know for each sport has a winter sports guidelines thing. So if they follow those sports guidelines, that's going to help decrease the number of close contacts. It's going to help with that kind of thing. So like not necessarily one case might not, if they follow the guidelines, that might not be considered a close contact. It's just like in a classroom. Not necessarily if you followed CDC safe guidelines from the county, not the CDC, sorry, you don't necessarily have to shut down a whole classroom. So you might not necessarily have to shut down for one case. Now you might, because of however practice went, or if you were all on a bus together and you couldn't sit 6 feet apart wearing a mask, those kinds of things. But there are WIAA safe guidelines for every winter sport. I've seen them.
Well, and teams this fall, that's what happened to them. I mean, that's why you had, as I mentioned earlier, that there were teams that canceled football games just because the whatever the numbers on their team made it impossible for them to play, or the quarantines, all of that. So yeah, it would be a case by case basis.
Can I make a comment?
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the things that would be really, really, really highly important is for coaches and staff and everyone to, it's not stressed enough that if your kid is having symptoms, whether they think it's a sniffle or whatever, they have to not come to practice, because the minute that kid goes to practice and is having symptoms and exposes their whole team, that's when the whole team gets shut down. So that's the most important thing, is following those guidelines, following the mask wearing when appropriate, doing the hand washing, sanitizing the equipment, making sure that you're telling the coach, I won't be at practice today because, I have a really bad headache and I, have a sore throat. It's stressing the importance of telling your team, don't medicate yourself to go to practice, because when you're doing that, you're putting your whole team at risk.
Thank you, Tammy.
I think
Yes.
it's kind of the same thing you see now with, I mean, we've all watched college football on TV right now. I mean, week to week, you don't know who's going to play and who's not going to play, because if they have cases, it's a case by case basis. And I think that's what we would have to operate under. And that's what I guess the students would need to understand, that if there are a lot of prevalent cases, or if there's that case that there's that contact, we may have to press pause immediately. Just like we're willing to turn on the spigot potentially next Monday.
Okay, I've got a motion that on December 7th, we will start practice and co-curricular activities following strict safety guidelines, as Jack mentioned and as Tammy mentioned. Motion made by Shelley, seconded by Jack. All in favor? I think I'll probably do a roll call vote or a voice vote. I'm going to start with Shelley.
Aye.
Lori.
Aye.
Let's see here. Joni.
Aye.
Jack.
Aye.
Paul.
No.
Tina.
No.
And I vote no as well. So motion
You didn't let me
carried.
vote.
Pardon?
You didn't get a vote from Paul, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I voted. Yeah.
So
Okay,
motion
sorry.
carried 4-3. Okay. Thanks for the discussion, everyone. The next item on the agenda is mode of learning decision timeline. I asked Dave to put that on the agenda. I have received about a dozen calls from parents. I know exactly a dozen because I just counted them before the meeting started. Mostly elementary, a couple middle school, and I think one high school. They were asking that we extend it to 2 weeks due to the planning. Many parents shared with me that they are working out of the home. Grandma, Aunt Sue, bigger sister is helping the elementary students. And they said planning from a Wednesday or maybe a late on Wednesday to a Monday has been difficult. All of them, all 12 calls, texts were very supportive of our decisions, and they want their children safe. So I asked Dave to put that on the agenda. From some of our constituents, all of them were parents, and like I said, mostly elementary and planning. They of course want their child back in school, but they also were very, they want them to be safe, but it was just mainly for the family that the longer time frame would be helpful. So Dave.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're, one of the only schools that just goes week to week. The number of schools that are making decisions go a minimum of 2 weeks. Some are even going longer. And it would be beneficial, again, from a staffing point, to be able to, not just have 2 days notice to plan your curriculum, your lessons. And to your point, Julie, about, the parents having more time to make plans and plan out, I think is beneficial. So.
And some internet access issues were brought up, that they have to take their child to grandma's, and it was a variety of but very well-versed, well-spoken concerns.
I guess, Julie, my 2 cents on that, and just my comment is, I would think we would want to continue to go week to week, just because it allows us to get those kids into school potentially. If we're looking at a 2-week time frame, and let's say Wednesday this week is when we get it, you're telling me then that basically the our next board meeting Wednesday would be the next time we could even think about it. And then we're only in school for what, maybe 4 days, and then it's Christmas break. And if I can get 2 days with those kids face-to-face with a teacher, or 4 days at this point, I want to get as much face-to-face time with them as I possibly can. I think that's what's important right now. So my vote would be staying with the 1 week time frame, because I think we also heard from several parents tonight that they would prefer the 1 week time frame as well. I think those kids want to get in school, and I think that would be my recommendation.
It's all individual perspectives and what we have going on in our lives. Exactly.
So that's my opinion.
I just wanted to share what was brought to me. So. Anybody else?
I like the 1 week one, but I can definitely see where it's, if you're an elementary parent or if you're a middle or high school parent, where that difference is. I like the week to week for the same aspect of hopefully we get the kids in the classroom a little bit sooner.
I'd like to ask Mr. Johnson or Mr. Mullenberg if they have a perspective to share.
From the perspective of 1 week to another, I want the kids back in school. And I think the 1 week gives us a better option to doing that. I think it was brought up just, you know, if our numbers come back on this Wednesday and they're favorable, then also we got to, instead of starting on Monday face-to-face, we got to wait for the following Monday. I think we create a whole different level of frustration, but from a logistics side of it, also the deliveries that we do, my staff is putting together deliveries that go for 2 weeks at a time. It's a lot of work, a lot of man hours, a lot of materials going out, a lot of delivery stuff. So the 2 weeks would be better for that from that perspective of the logistics side of it. But you know, so it's just that it's the same as the family that wants it or family that doesn't want it. But I think at the end of the day, the goal on my end is to get kids back face to face, and week to week serves that. We'll deal with the delivery side of it.
I would echo the same thing that Mike just said, wanting to get the kids back. I do believe that's a quicker avenue. I do believe for staff, for planning purposes, 2 weeks is definitely easier for them. It's not easy, but it kind of gives them more of a path. But like Mike said, you know, we can get the kids back a little bit quicker with the week to week. I definitely would advocate for that as well.
Thank you. So sounds like we'll keep it the same.
It's an agenda item. Do you want a motion on it?
I don't think we need a motion if we're not changing it, do we, Dave?
No, if you're going to keep it the same.
If we're going to keep it the same, I don't think we need a motion. I just want to, again, as some of the other board members did, thank you for the parents, the coaches, and the students for your public comment. We hear you wholeheartedly. I guess that's all we have.
Well, can we talk about the changing the model? Like have a special meeting or what going forward? What about that? We talked about that, and then we got moved on to the 2 week thing. Can I propose I'd like to propose a special meeting to talk about that, maybe tied to the school board planning meeting for the superintendent search next Tuesday, adding it to that.
So I just sent everyone an email earlier, late this afternoon, that Guy is planning on meeting us at 6:30 via Zoom next Tuesday.
I'm not 100% sure if I can be here, but that's irrelevant at this point. But
I think that's difficult to piggyback that on top of that because you don't know how long that planning meeting is going to take. So how do you post it time-wise? I think it would be better to have a separate special meeting.
Yeah, I do too. We don't know how long the planning meeting is going to be, and I really want that search to be our focus that evening and making that plan. So would you like to set another meeting, a special meeting? Jack, you want to make a motion for that?
I make a motion that we find a date for a special meeting to discuss the model that we use to decide whether we're having in-person learning, hybrid learning, or remote learning.
I'll second that.
I think it would be great if you could maybe attend that one.
Who seconded it? I'm sorry.
It was Lori.
Okay. Well, why don't we set a date before we motion? Go ahead.
I missed, Jack, you cut out. Who were you requesting attend the meeting?
Dr. Worsing. I just,
Okay, thank you.
she shared tonight with the, how the outlook and the morbidity rate, that kind of thing. I think that would be.
Yeah, I agree. You just cut out for a second, so I agree. Thank you.
Okay, so anyone want to shoot some dates out there? So, and then we'll just make that all part of the motion, the date.
What
As
about
well.
Dr. Worthing to attend?
Yeah, when is
Dr.
Dr. Worsinger
Dr.
available?
Worsing, you're probably the being on call and all of that. So what works?
If you guys set a time, I can figure it out. Even if I'm on call, it's not very likely that I'd get called away, or I could even have one of my partners cover if it's going to be a couple hours.
Okay, well, we have our planning meeting with Mr. Lovett on December 8th at 6:30. So anyone have another evening?
What about the
Our
9th?
regular board meeting is December 16th.
But the 9th.
The 9th.
The 9th? How's the 9th work?
So 2 nights in a row, right? If I'm following.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
I am on call that night, but like I said, I could make it work if we need to.
Dave, does that work for you?
The 9th. Yes.
6:30
Could we? Okay.
or what? Who was going to talk?
I just wondered if you wanted to go earlier, if that's
Oh.
a possibility. But
Is
that's
it possible for people to go earlier?
I could go as early as 5:30. Before that would be tough.
Does 5:30 work for everybody? Joan or Shelley?
Yep, that works. 5:30 works.
Joni?
We also have to keep, I think we also have to keep in perspective, we're going to have public comments at this also. So we're going to have to make it at a time too that we're able to be open to listen to people at that time too, because I don't know what we're thinking of redoing the model or what our ideas are, but that's something I think people are going to need to know ahead of time. So hopefully we have ideas or suggestions, or we're having a meeting with, I want to know what we're going to be discussing and our hopes here of
Good.
our ideas going to change.
Good point, Tina, on the public comment. And I think as far as looking at models, like I said, there's 30 some schools, there's more than that on this list. Many are in person. We can divide and conquer, find out what they're doing, task our administrators with finding that out, but there's lots of schools doing lots of things. So we could find that out. Come with.
Keep that 6:30 so that it stays standard for the public. And
yeah, I would agree with Tina. I think sticking with the same time would be beneficial so that, I mean, some of our constituents might not be home from work yet at 5:30. So.
Sounds good. So I have a motion for a special meeting to discuss a model for in-person virtual learning for December 9th at 18:30. Motion was made by Jack, seconded by Lori. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. All right. December 9th at 6:30. Thank you. Okay. I ask for adjournment.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Tina, seconded by Paul to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Julie,
Everyone.